Good afternoon. I hope you're all feeling energized by the conversations you're having and the people you're meeting. I certainly am. We really are excited to have you here at NYU, specifically at NYU Wagner, and we hope that you are considering everything that you've heard today, but if you have questions even later on from this panel, we're also going to be excited to see you in the reception, and so we'll be continuing these conversations. We are limited to a very short time period, so we are going to focus primarily on the students who are joining us today, and they'll tell you their specific experiences related to their own career development here at NYU Wagner, and they'll also talk about our Office of Career Services. My name is Mary Snowden-Lorence. I'm the director of our Office of Career Services, and I'm also joined by my amazing staff. We've got Alex Kobus, and we have Rachel Dubois, and our colleague Pat Eaton is holding down the fort in the Puck building, which you'll hear a little bit about later. So we're going to let you know a little bit more about the Office of Career Services. We do use acronyms a lot, so you'll hear OCS reference. That's what we mean. And we're going to let you know a little bit more about the resources, services, and all the things you can do with us as you partner together. But most importantly, we would love to hear from our panel today, who will introduce themselves, and if you could share either why Wagner or what specifically you appreciate most about the Wagner community.
Hi everyone, I am Emily de los Santos, and I am a first-gen American and a first-gen graduate student. I am from New York City, born and raised in Washington Heights, and now live in East Harlem. I am getting my master's in urban planning, specializing in housing and economic development with a little bit more of a concentration in real estate finance. And the reason why I chose Wagner was because at the time in which I applied and entered their school, I was a full-time employee. And in addition to the passion for working in the public service sector, I was very happy with the way in which the program was structured and how it accommodated working professionals.
Hi everyone, my name is Handa. I am an international student from Mongolia and studying Master of Public Administration with a focus on international development. I would say I chose Wagner because I wanted to gain combined education of quantitative and qualitative skills. So I took classes in like very policy-specific courses like healthcare, housing, and also complemented that with some coding courses to improve my data analysis skills. So that's why, yeah.
My name is Royce. I'm a second-year full-time student. Also getting my MPA, and the specialization is social impact, innovation, and investment. So I chose Wagner for two reasons. One is in 8th grade, I saw my first episode of Will and Grace, and I decided that at that point I wanted to move to New York, and NYU Wagner was a top-ranked school, and the Puck building is actually Grace's office in the show, so it kind of just worked out perfectly, which is why I'm here. And then the other reason is because I used to work in the private sector, and I had an interest in business as a mechanism to do social good, but I didn't know how that translated into a public service career. And so the SI Cube track actually provided me with a gateway to build a career based on my interest and my passion. So that's why I'm here.
Thank you. I bet folks in the audience are wondering this, but could you tell me and them what one-on-one individualized career resources have you used through OCS or did you benefit from?
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. I benefit greatly from one-on-one counseling with the OCS staff. So they can help you with more of the usual stuff, resume editing, cover letter editing, but also help you with strategy and building out your career track, right? So like I said, I came here, I had ideas as to what my end goal would be, like what is my dream job, and then filling in those gaps with the OCS staff and looking for opportunities that align with my interests based on those milestones that I marked for myself was really helpful.
And then to add to that, I decided to transition from my employer and also to become a full-time student this current year. And I certainly went to OCS to think about whether or not leaving my job was a good call for me at the time, and just thinking more strategically about my long-term career goals and professional development. And then secondly, I then was provided with an opportunity to apply for an internship this semester. And as I mentioned earlier, I was a little nervous because it had been 6 years since I'd been in an interview. And I decided to meet with Alex and really think about not so much that I wasn't prepared for the position, but more importantly, really answering the questions that are asked of me and highlighting some of the skills that I have that may not be as clear or as direct through a question. And then actually something Mary brought up earlier is like behavioral norms and understanding how to have, or what are the norms in an interview. All those things, I was kind of like, oh crap, I don't know, forgot how to do all this, I don't know how to do it. So we had several conversations, and that was extremely helpful, just to have the dialogue before the interview and to honestly think out loud. I think I really enjoyed the fact that I was able to just think out loud and think through my thoughts with her, and then I got the internship, so that was great.
For me, Wagner has a career directory that's very customized for jobs and internships in public service. So I would say NYU, the larger community, also has a career directory, but it's very huge, so it's hard to navigate sometimes. So for me, it was easier to navigate the Wagner directory, and it provided me more guided support when I was looking for internship. And also, like everybody else, I really benefited from one-on-one counseling appointments where I discussed about my resume, cover letter, mock interviews, and also like specific workplace like challenges that I was facing. So yeah, it was pretty helpful.
Great. So in addition to that, we do have advising appointments. The one-on-one counseling that we're discussing is 30 to 45-minute appointments to get to know a little bit more about you, what some of your goals are, what you're coming to NYU Wagner with in terms of your experience and your skills, but most importantly, what are those milestones? What are you trying to accomplish while you're studying with us, and even beyond that? So I'm glad to hear that as well. And Honda, thank you also for referencing the online career directory. It's the place where a lot of our alumni, but also recruiters and other hiring managers go, specifically because they're looking for NYU Wagner talent. So they'll come and post internships, full-time jobs, part-time jobs, and even fellowships there. And they're oftentimes doing that really thinking that that's the first place that we go, because we should. And that's also where you'll find some really great career opportunities and learn more about some of the employers that also post and work with us directly. So I have another question. Can you tell us a little bit more about some of the events, programs, or program initiatives that you've experienced or that you've utilized that you might recommend for others?
I can talk about Alential Experience Fund. So that's an opportunity for you to apply for a stipend for an unpaid public service internship. So I did my summer internship in DC at the World Bank, and applying for Alential really helped me to make that possible. And it's not only for one slot. I think it has 33 slots, so it's not just one that you have to fight for. So that was really a helpful experience for me.
Mine is kind of twofold. So they offer info sessions, which are more intimate, smaller conversation-like events that take place with a recruiter from businesses and companies and nonprofits. And it's an opportunity for you to acquaint yourself with the idea of networking. I tend to shy away from networking events because they're so massive, and I'm like, everyone's so good at this, and I'm terrible. But it really helped push me out of my comfort zone in a gradual way. And then it prepared me for the Career Expo, which has around 80 employers specifically coming to Wagner to recruit for either summer internships or full-time gigs. And I got my summer internship at that event, kind of on the spot, like on the fly. I just was helping someone set up their table, and then we were talking, and it went from there. So those are two important things.
And I would just add, in the fall, we have, I say we because I'm a project assistant, so I'm on the team too, but we work on career-specific events. with a specific concentration on specializations, and those happen throughout the semester and at different hours of the day, or sometimes it'll be during the day, sometimes it'll be during the evenings, and in some cases you'll have some social groups partner with OCS on that specific event. So that allows you to talk with alumni in the field and really get a sense of what their experiences have been post-graduation. And then another event that I just found out about after almost 3.5 years and that is our Lights, Camera, and LinkedIn event, in which happened in the spring semester, earlier on in the spring semester, where recruiters, where LinkedIn specific employees will review your LinkedIn profile and give you guidelines and offer you ideas about how you should be formatting your profile. You can also have conversations with the advisors regarding your resume. But then lastly, which is like super cool, you get a free professional headshot. And those are expensive, so.
And it's always one of the things that when you look at your LinkedIn, you think, oh, what is that profile picture? Oh, that's like 7 years old. So it's convenient too. And I would say too, the theme there is it's never too late to start, it's never too early to start. And that actually brings me to my next question, which is, panel, when should people actually start throughout their graduate career? When should they see OCS? When would you strongly recommend that they check in with us? What are your tips for everyone who's pursuing a graduate degree on working with career services, and why?
I would say for two different purposes, you should see career counselor, in my opinion. First one is more about like long-term career planning. So I think that's more suitable for checking in with OCS at the beginning of each semester. Like for that semester, like, do you want to do internship, or do you want to do a part-time job, research project? Just discussing that more like longer-term goals with them is helpful. And for the other purpose would be like special cases where maybe you're having discussion about salary negotiation, or if you're planning to quit your job, like talking with career counselors during those case-by-cases is helpful. And in terms of advice, like OCS has like a lot of information on different events at the beginning of semester. So like really holding your calendar dates for those events is helpful, because both Wagner and NYU has so many events to attend, and your calendar tends to fill up pretty quickly. So mark your calendars for events that you really want to attend, like the LinkedIn one Emily was talking about.
I would say, based on my own experience, for someone who's working and entered the program as a full-time employee, when you are thinking, if it comes up, maybe not come up, but if you are considering a transition, or if you're considering a promotion, or you're considering applying for an internal job, definitely seek out the Office of Career Services to think about the strategy that you are going to take about that. So for my purposes, it was leaving my company and transitioning into another sector within the field. And I did that prior to resigning, and then I did that when the opportunity presented itself to have an internship. And so I guess for someone who's in that particular predicament, think about those types of different opportunities.
My advice would be to not procrastinate. A lot of people go right when they need to be hired. So in the springtime, a couple weeks before the school year ends, everybody is lining up to get a counseling session for with OCS on help with resumes and things like that. So I always say go in the lull of the semester. So maybe the second, third, fourth week. Even if you think you don't need to meet with somebody, it's always great to meet with somebody. I thought my resume was perfect. I went there and then I was like, I really need to work on this. But it's great because sometimes you look at your resume and your cover letter so often that you kind of become numb to what's actually on there and if it's catching attention. So schedule ahead of time, make it a priority, and don't just put it in the back of your head because you're not looking. You should actively be working on those materials and skills.
Great advice. And Royce, I love that because, our careers are dynamic and so are our resumes. So we should really think about updating them, keeping them up to speed with what we're doing, and also making sure that they're tailored to the specific roles, career stages, and even some of the specific skills and qualifications that we're looking for our dream jobs. So I think that's something that's a lifelong skill, which is also what we hope that you'll do with us. And that's something that we actually pride ourselves in. We really want you to be able to develop your own skill set and meet us where you are and help us meet you where you are to figure out what's the next best step for you. And we can help you along that journey. And one of the most unique things I think about our office also is that you actually have access to us as alumni for life. So we're stuck together. And we do want to hear from you. So I would say, you have so many resources within our community, and they were referenced on the panel today, but whether that's faculty, whether that is alum who come back to the university, whether that is your very talented cohort and classmates, and the advisors who do really care. So really thinking about you all succeeding is something that gets us excited, and that we want to hear back from you. And speaking of hearing back, if you're also wondering where in the world are our alums and where are they working, we do actually collect employment statistics every year. We do have a handout in the back of the room near the water, so also refresh yourself because it's been a long day. But we had that also throughout registration, so you may have grabbed it earlier. And these are also all available on our website, as are the how-to guides and many of the things that we mentioned to help you navigate your career. So with that said, I will actually pause, and if there are questions from the audience, please feel free to let us know.
Hi, my name is Brian, and I'm from Chicago. Can you name any employers that directly recruit for Wagner students?
Locally? Is that okay? Okay. So EDC, which is the Economic Development Corporation, HPD, which is our NYC Housing Preservation Department, DCAS, the Department of, yes, thank you. Sorry, there's so many acronyms, but there's a lot of, I would say confidently that all of the city agencies recruit for us because we have such strong relationships with them in various teams or in various kind of levels. And then we have recruits from Deloitte, which is a very well-known consulting firm. And am I missing anything?
Internationally, I would say UN, right here in New York, and World Bank in DC, and also International Rescue Committee. And another way to look that up is if you go to LinkedIn and search for NYU Robert F. Wagner Graduate School of Service, click on alumni, and then it will show you by geography, by organization, like you can look them up. But I would say international, those three are very common.
Yeah, and then more for like private-public partnerships, like Deloitte, a lot of the healthcare consulting agencies, if you're in the health program, hospitals, and then as well as starting more so, I've seen like Citibank Foundation, other kind of large corporations who are needing to fill in these roles with professionals who understand how to do these roles. And then I've worked for a lot of smaller consulting agencies that do social impact. So one is called Reboot, another one's called Cause Strategy Partners, and they constantly come to these events looking for Wagner students. At both of the internships I've had, they've only recruited from Wagner students for the past 7 years. So they are really into Wagner students.
Any additional questions? So the question was, are there any one-on-one mentoring programs with alumni? Very similar to what Honda just mentioned, we actually would work with you on sort of your individual approach to reach out to them. And LinkedIn is honestly the best resource for that because it's the most up-to-date with our dynamic alumni and where they're working in the world. It also gives us access to them outside of even just the New York City area. We do have a lot in the New York City area, so it's great for in-person events. But we have so many alumni around the world, literally, from Haiti to Dublin to even thinking about places locally and across the country. So we've got a lot of folks all over the U.S., let alone the globe. And we actually would work with you to reach out to them directly and to figure out what that strategy looks like. In particular, we'd want you to also focus on what you're reaching out for and how best to do that. So we have a lot of information on informational interviews, which I would recommend, again, before you need it. So not necessarily when you're seeking a job, but when you're seeking information and you're trying to learn more about an industry, more about an employer, really getting the nuanced information about what is it like to work at NYC EDC? What is it really like to work at the mayor's office, who also hires with us? You know, you want to think about what are the inside tips that you could learn from, hopefully, an alum. And as Honda mentioned, if you do go directly to the organization or the company that you're interested in on LinkedIn, on the right-hand side, as long as you're updating your, and this is in the future, folks, so we'll imagine that you're NYU Wagner students, you would update your profile to NYU Wagner's alumni group and our connection there. And that way it's going to sync and let you know what other alums do we have working in the world. And then on top of that, you'll also be able to use the broader network of NYU, and that's just NYU alone. So those are a lot of the strategies that we actually would work with you more one-on-one on to make sure that you are doing it thoughtfully, doing it intentionally, and doing it successfully. More often than not, we do reach out, and it's sort of with a, not a direct ask in mind, and sometimes that can feel really difficult as well, as why am I reaching out? Have I articulated that? Does that feel a little transactional? We can help you really think about connecting to what you're passionate about. And I would just say in general, you know, recommending that you're leading with what it is that you have to offer. I find that we sometimes have imposter syndrome coming into graduate school and coming into a new environment, specifically coming into NYC. I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin originally, so shout out to Chicago. But when you're starting, you know, a new environment, it's oftentimes you may have folks here and you may already know individuals from your work, but oftentimes we're starting new, so we can help you kind of navigate how do you connect to NYC, how do you connect to NYU Wagner, and most importantly, how do you connect to your dream job? So that's a big part of what we do, and your colleagues help you along the way, and you might actually be in classes with folks who are working exactly where you want to work or who have worked where you want to work as well. So we'll continue to build community together too. So if there are no more questions, you're welcome to ask us individually. And again, we will definitely see you at the reception, but want to make sure you get up for our closing remarks that do start at 3:45 on the dot. And then 4 o'clock on the dot, we'll have our reception as well. But thank you all, and thank you again to our panelists.